Our guest today is a guy who honestly needs no introduction. He's a singer, songwriter, musician, actor, comedian, and his original songs and parodies have sold millions of records and earned him 3 Grammy Awards since he first came on the scene in the late 70s. On June 19th, he'll be appearing at the Atlantic City Hilton. It's a pleasure to welcome to the show the one and only Weird Al Yankovic.
Well, hey, how you doing?
Great, Al. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
My pleasure. If I didn't need an introduction, what was all that about?
Well, it's true. First things first, you're going to be in Atlantic City on the 19th.
I'll be there birthdays if you want.
Well, the first time I saw you, it was back in the mid-'90s during your Bad Hair tour. And it was at the old Valley Forge Music Fair, which is no longer there.
Oh.
Yeah, and you really do put on an incredible show. It was a great show. I've seen you a couple times. Very different than most concerts. For those listeners who've never had the chance to see you live, can you give them an idea of what they can expect from a night with Weird Al Yankovic?
Well, they should expect very, very little, because that way they'll be pleasantly surprised when I blow their mind. Basically, it's a rock and roll show. It's a high-energy show with costume changes, film clips. It's a multimedia kind of thing, and it's basically a funny concert. It's family-friendly. It's a good time.
Yeah, and something cool that I noticed is that your audience is really a cross-section of society. I mean, there are all ages that come out and enjoy your show. You've got everything from kids to adults, grandparents to goths. I mean, it's a very diverse audience. So what's it like for you to look out into that crowd and just see that so many different people love your work?
It's very gratifying. I mean, I look out into the audience and you see everybody from embryos to geriatrics. It's pretty cool.
Now, you've been on the road for decades now, and I'm assuming this is not your first trip to Atlantic City. Do you have any particular moments that stand out? Any fond memories from playing in Atlantic City? Any maybe a jackpot that you hit or something?
I don't do a lot of gambling, but I think the last time I was in Atlantic City, I just remember that the vegetable tray backstage was really nice. I believe they had, if I'm not mistaken, it was American cheese cut into little isosceles triangles.
Yeah, and if you're really lucky, they've got these little miniature bottles of Coke that they give you backstage.
I've never been that lucky.
Now, your concert set lists, they include all the songs that people are going to come out and expect and want to hear from you. But you have also got a number of songs that I guess they'd be considered concert favorites. They're songs that have never appeared on any of your albums. Now, I'm a huge Beatles freak, so I've got to ask you, will the world ever get to see a formal release of 2 of my concert favorites, Chicken Pot Pie and Gee, I'm a Nerd?
No, I'm afraid those were meant to be concert-only pieces. They were favorites of mine to do, and they never got the necessary approvals to be bona fide releases. But you may be interested to know that I got to direct Paul McCartney last year in a short film. I'm not sure if it's going to be ever playing anywhere close to you, but I did a 10-minute 3D feature called Al's Brain in 3D, which played the Orange County Fair here in Southern California. And the intention is it's going to be traveling around to various science centers and fairs and things like that. It's kind of a funny 3D movie about the human brain. And Paul McCartney was nice enough to do a cameo in it. So hopefully that'll make its way around to you someday.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it like getting to work with Paul McCartney?
It was beyond amazing. I mean, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I don't normally get starstruck, but Paul McCartney, I think, does that to everybody. It must be quite unusual for him to have a normal conversation with somebody without people just like staring at him gape mouthed. But he's a super sweet guy. I got to, it took about 3 to 5 minutes, very quick, but I can now put on my resume that I've directed Paul McCartney.
Well, for those not familiar with those songs, Gee, I'm a Nerd was a parody of Free as a Bird from the Beatles anthology, and Chicken Pot Pie, of course, is a parody of Wings' Live and Let Die. Now, I've heard this, and maybe you can tell me if this is true or not. Is it true that Chicken Pot Pie was actually written at the request of Paul McCartney?
No, actually quite the opposite. I wrote that, and it wasn't a brilliant song, but it featured the the chorus was basically just a bunch of chickens going, brilliant. But Actually, at the time, Paul turned that down, and he kind of felt bad about it because he was a fan and appreciated the kind of humor that I was doing. But he and Linda were staunch vegetarians, and he felt that he couldn't condone any song which implicitly approved of the consumption of animal flesh.
And you're actually a vegetarian, right?
I am, but I still sing my bologna, but I don't mean it.
So is there any one song that you've wanted to do more than any, but you just couldn't get the permission?
Hard to say. It's really quite the exception to the rule when somebody will turn me down for a parody. Most artists look at it as an homage and find that they've sort of made it, actually. But the only person who has turned me down over the years has been Prince, and I can't think of anything that recently where I wanted to do a Prince parody. But back in the 80s, there were several things that would have been kind of cool to do, but he just kind of never was into it.
So have you ever considered just shocking the music world by putting out a serious album?
Well, all my albums are very serious. They're just, I think they just misunderstood by the general population.
Fair enough. Okay, Al, I've got one final question for you. This is a question that I always told myself, if I ever get the chance to talk to Weird Al, I have to ask him this. When I was a kid, maybe 11 or 12 years old, I picked up an issue of Disney Adventures magazine, and it featured an interview with you. And there was something you said, and I've always wondered about. Did you really sell your house for a lifetime supply of wax lips?
Well, a lot of people ask me this. I think this is the first question that Larry King asked me. I hate to disillusion you, but no, I did not sell my house for a lifetime collection of wax lips. There, I've said it.
Well, at least now I know for sure. Hey, would you mind doing a promo for this station?
I would be honored, sir. Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and if your radio is on right now, most likely you're listening to Cruisin 92.1 WBLT.
All right, our guest has been the one and only Weird Al Yankovic. He'll be at the Atlantic City Hilton on June 19th. Al, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.